My household was abusive, to say the least.
His daughter begging him to stop fighting.
I don't want you to get hurt. And that right there, Jim. Wow. I instantly said no. That's it.
Oscar De La Hoya didn't just lose peace after boxing. He lost control of the life he was supposed to enjoy. But everything changed when he finally revealed the wound boxing could never heal. Let's get into the details. How a beaten boy from East LA became America's golden boy. There is a photograph that most people have never seen. It is not the photograph of Oscar De La Hoya standing on the Olympic podium in Barcelona, draped in red, white, and blue with a gold medal hanging from his neck. It is not the photograph of him knocking out Julio Cesar Chavez in front of 100,000 screaming fans in Las Vegas. And it is not the photograph that would surface years later and threaten to bury everything he had ever built. No, the photograph in question is far simpler than any of those. It is a poster, an Olympics poster, and scrolled across it in the handwriting of a 12-year-old boy from East Los Angeles are 5 words that would either become a prophecy or a curse. Oscar De La Hoya, Olympic champion.
It's really fucking miserable.
It is the kind of belief that either makes you or breaks you. And in the case of the man they would eventually call the Golden Boy, it very nearly did both. To understand what happened to Oscar De La Hoya, you cannot start with the fame, the fortune, or the fall. You have to start where he started, in a small house in East LA, where the walls kept more secrets than any boxing ring ever could.
Oscar De La Hoya, Olympic champion.
Those 7 words do not even begin to scratch the surface of what Oscar endured as a child. His mother, Cecilia Gonzalez De La Hoya, was by his own admission the person who beat him most in that house. Not occasionally, not when he did something terribly wrong, practically every single day.
My household was abusive, to say the least.
He was the middle child. His siblings, according to him, were not subjected to the same treatment, just Oscar. And because nobody outside that house knew what was going on, he had nowhere to turn. He later revealed that by the age of 13, he had become completely numb to the beatings, describing moments where his mother would hit him so relentlessly that she herself would begin crying because he showed no reaction at all. His body had learned to shut down. His emotions followed. But here's where the story takes the turn that would shape the next 30 years of Oscar De La Hoya's life. All of that suppressed rage, all of that pain he could no longer feel on the outside. He could feel it on the inside. And the only place he was ever allowed to let it out was inside a boxing ring.
People don't know is that she was very abusive physically. And I was the only child that would receive it.
Father, Joel De La Hoya Sr., a former amateur boxer himself, introduced Oscar to the sport when the boy was just 5 years old. And from that moment on, boxing was not simply a hobby or a pastime. It was a lifeline. It was the one arena where everything Oscar was feeling was not just acceptable, but advantageous. He has described picturing his mother's face on his opponents, unleashing everything he had been forced to swallow at home. Then when Oscar was 17 years old, Cecilia was diagnosed with breast cancer. And before she died, she made her son a promise that would weigh on him like an anchor for the rest of his life. She told him to win the gold medal. That was her dying wish.
And so when I would get inside the ring, I would have all this anger and rage.
After she passed, Oscar nearly walked away from the sport entirely. He did not want to fight anymore. The person he had been fighting for was gone, but something pulled him back. A voice in his head, maybe hers, telling him that if she were still alive, she would want him to continue.
Here's a kid from East LA doing it for his mother. Oh, he better do it for his mother. That was her dying wish.
So he qualified for the United States Olympic team and traveled to Barcelona. But the Oscar De La Hoya who arrived at those games was not the vibrant, confident young fighter the world would later come to know. He was a ghost. He has described staying in his dorm room the entire time, not interacting with anyone, not leaving, not socializing. He did not know whether he was focusing or whether he was simply numb. And then, just like that, he won.
I remember qualifying for the team because after she had passed, I decided I just didn't want to fight anymore.
But there was no celebration, no fist pump, no tears of joy, just silence inside a 19-year-old kid who had accomplished his dead mother's final wish. and did not know how to feel anything about it.
Then next thing you know I'm on top of that podium winning the gold
It
medal.
was not until the TV cameras found him after the medal ceremony that the dam finally broke. They asked him a question on live TV, and all at once, everything he had been holding in came flooding out.
And I couldn't cry, I couldn't be happy, I was numb.
When he returned to the United States, Oscar went to the cemetery where his mother was buried and placed the gold medal on her grave, telling her he had kept his promise. And then, in his mind, he was done. Mission accomplished.
These emotions just, I couldn't talk. I just couldn't talk. All I remember saying is, I'm sorry for crying. I'm sorry for crying.
Of course, he did not stay retired. The professional ranks came calling. And by his 12th fight at just 20 years of age, he won the WBO Junior Lightweight title by stopping Jimmy Bredal, capturing his first world championship. But what the cameras never showed was the price he paid to get there. At a natural weight far above 130 pounds, standing 5'10", Oscar was starving himself to make the lower weight classes.
And I retired. At that moment, I retired from boxing. I didn't want to fight anymore.
An entire week while training like a professional athlete.
Days where I would just suck on an orange,
And yet, when asked whether it was worth it, whether all that suffering served a purpose, Oscar's answer was simple.
I would eat an orange a day for about a week, literally, just to make...
The champion is exactly what Oscar De La Hoya became. But suffering, as it turns out, was something he was far more familiar with than anyone knew. 6 weight classes, $700 million, and a secret that destroyed everything. By the mid-1990s, Oscar De La Hoya was not merely a boxer. He was a phenomenon. His pro record would eventually reach 39 wins and 6 losses with 30 knockouts. And he would capture 11 world titles across 6 different weight divisions, from super featherweight all the way up to middleweight. He stopped Julio Cesar Chavez, one of the most beloved fighters in Mexican boxing history, by TKO in the 4th round, and did it again in their rematch 2 years later. He outboxed Pernell Whitaker. He dismantled Hector Camacho. He stopped Fernando Vargas in a grudge match so fierce it was called Bad Blood. His career generated somewhere in the neighborhood of $700 million in pay-per-view revenue alone, a staggering figure that placed him among the most commercially successful fighters to ever lace up gloves. But behind every golden trophy, there were cracks forming that nobody could see. And the first one to become visible to the public was not a scandal or a confession. It was a loss. Oscar faced Felix Trinidad in a welterweight unification bout that would become one of boxing's most debated fights. Oscar dominated the early and middle rounds with superior speed and footwork, building what many believed to be an insurmountable lead on the scorecards. But in the final 3 rounds, he stopped engaging. He circled. He moved. He threw almost nothing. Trinidad outlanded him 64-33 in the championship rounds. And when the scorecards were read, Trinidad had the majority decision. To this day, a significant portion of the boxing world believes Oscar gave that fight away. Then came Shane Mosley twice. The first fight went to Mosley by split decision in an extremely competitive bout. The rematch was even more controversial. Oscar outlanded Mosley 221-127 according to punch statistics. And yet, the judges still gave the fight to Mosley. That second Mosley loss remains one of the most disputed decisions in Oscar's career and ignited fierce accusations of judging inconsistency in high-profile pay-per-view bouts. But the real unraveling was happening away from the ring. What the public did not know, and what Oscar would not admit for years, was that he had been wrestling with alcohol and cocaine use dating back to his youth. He has stated that he began drinking as early as age 8 to 13, a habit that grew alongside his fame and the unresolved trauma from his childhood. In a landmark Univision interview, he detailed years of cocaine abuse, heavy drinking during training camps, infidelity, and suicidal thoughts. He eventually entered rehabilitation at the Betty Ford Center, and then came the photographs. Images surfaced showing Oscar De La Hoya dressed in women's lingerie, fishnet stockings, high heels, and a wig. The photos were sold to the New York Post by a model named Milana Draven, with whom he had been having an affair. Oscar initially denied they were real, claiming digital alteration. Draven sued him for slander, and the case reportedly settled for around $20 million. Years later, in the Univision interview and in subsequent appearances, he admitted the photos were authentic. He attributed them to being under the influence of alcohol and cocaine during one of his lowest periods, describing a suitcase containing women's clothing, drugs, and evidence of a man who had completely lost control. The scandal nearly drove him to suicide, and he has described the act of finally admitting the truth as one of the most liberating moments of his life. But at the time, the damage was catastrophic. The golden boy image, the clean-cut Olympic hero, the family man, all of it was shattered in an instant. And yet, through all of this, Oscar kept fighting. His final professional bout came against Manny Pacquiao. But the man who stepped into the ring that night was not the same Oscar De La Hoya, who had terrorized 6 weight classes for more than a decade. He knew it. The audience knew it. And Pacquiao certainly knew it.
About it, sure, absolutely. Yeah, but you have to suffer. In order to win, in order to fight, in order to be champion, you have to suffer.
Oscar was stopped after the 8th round, unable to answer the bell. In the aftermath, he described the experience not in terms of physical pain, but something far worse.
Very hard. It actually took a very tough beating to get me out of the sport.
He could see the openings. He could see Pacquiao standing right in front of him, wide open after throwing 15 punch combinations. But the signal from his brain to his fists simply would not fire anymore.
My last fight, I'm like a shell of myself.
A man who had built an entire career on lightning-fast reflexes could no longer pull the trigger.
Pacquiao would be right in front of me. He would, after hitting me 15 times, and then I would be ready to.
And when asked whether Pacquiao had hurt him physically, his answer revealed everything about where the real wounds had always been.
Couldn't pull the trigger. I was gone.
Oscar De La Hoya formally retired. The Golden Boy era was over, but the hardest fight of his life was only just beginning. Retirement, ruin, and the 7-year-old girl who ended it all. Retirement for most people is supposed to be the reward. You put in the work, you hang up your gloves, and you enjoy the fruits of decades of labor. But for Oscar De La Hoya, retirement felt less like a victory lap and more like a slow-motion collapse. When someone asked him how he was doing away from the ring, his answer was as raw and unfiltered as anything he had ever said.
I never felt pain in the ring. It was only emotional pain that I felt when I fought Manny Pacquiao.